I still, even as like a gay guy who gets in drag all the time and has a lot of friends who are very experimental in like behaviors and beliefs and etc. I still like really feel like men should wear pants and that's it. But I get this reaction. I don't like that. Like with these guys wearing these like almost like belly shirts that came with Garrett Pugh's thing from like fall, I think, and it was just these very feminine shapes on these models. Like, ugh. It is disgust.
Wow.
Which is really bad.
Yeah.
That's you know, that's the early man stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, like
no, it is.
I don't want to go back to superficial, but at the same time, like we talked about this, like, you know, we're gay or somewhere on the continuum and fairly flamboyant or out there in most cases. But I have a knee-jerk, like, whenever I just see, like, a faggoty, fag. And I used to be one. Yeah. And I just...
Girl, you still are one. Okay.
Your eyebrows called it ready to come home.
Oh!
We had a great
wait, let me just say this before I forget. I think there's something biological in my / our brains, right here, that really wants it to be men and women to be women, because that's so simple. Mm. And to try to have to dismantle the very basic, like, foundational truth of existence is really hard. And that's asking to do a lot.
Mm-hmm. I have a different response to that, I'm sorry.
You're going to jump in.
Okay, I'm just going to jump in anyway.
Yeah.
I agree with you up to a point. So for instance, I have a problem whenever I hear progressive queer people talk about how gender shouldn't matter. It's really problematic and we spend a lot of time dealing with gender and can't we just get past gender? And and I disagree on a really fundamental level. I think that most men want to look like men and most women want to look like women, because if not for that, somebody like me, we're just a lot less powerful, if that makes sense. Like, I get a lot of my power in the way I dress from the fact that I'm not dressed like a man. And so when I breeze into a room and act like it's not a big deal that I'm wearing sweatshants, that's a sweatshirt worn as pants. Yeah. So I'm not really interested in the conversation that happens, I find, fairly often in queer communities about how gender is just this really old construct, we should get rid of it. Because evidently it isn't an old construct, and evidently we're grappling with it, and there's something powerful about it.
It's basic. I mean, you can acknowledge that yes, there's variation among gender, and there's a spectrum. But at the same time, 90% of people are fit into the binary system quite happily, and
Well, I don't know, happily.
Well, I'm not saying that everybody.
If the number, but the thing is, if the number isn't 90%, the number is 80%. I think you would agree that 80% of people quite happily fit into, a very binary male-female, man-woman.
Yeah. You asked earlier about relativism, and I know that my masculinity is relative to other black men, and I know that my version of my masculinity is wholly different from what's out there as approved black masculinity. It gets really murky when we start talking about the gender binary. It does, and I sometimes think that even if we're having a conversation about gender, it's great. At the very least, we're not policing gender like we used to, and folks can, within the spectrum, dance a little bit away from the extremes. Yes, 90 or 80% of folks are going to happily be at those extremes and do it up, but the fact that we have the option of folks to float in between at whatever level and pace they want to do, I think that's fantastic. I also think and how incredibly masculine it is for you to stroll into a room and escort and own it. And
I don't ever wear sports.
But I'm just saying. They're atrocious.
They're atrocious.
But it's shorts and skirt.
In one.
Shorts with a little flap across the front, so it looks like
what?
a skirt.
Yeah,
exactly.
But that's wholly a masculine effort, and I feel that when...
Why is it a masculine effort?
Because girl. It's
It's
all the way back to
peacocky.
pump.
It's
Absolutely.
it's pompous and it's also in your face, asshole. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
All the way
you
back.
thought you're gonna get a guy walk in the room,
Yeah.
You're getting
and
this
you're getting a guy walk in the room and deal.